Hi guys, this is Sue at Miller's Laboratory. Thanks for joining me today. Today I have a video that's a little bit different than what I have done in the past. My husband and I recently went on a vacation and I took along one of these little mini journals that I have for sale in my Etsy shop. I wanted to show you how I used that to journal our vacation and just give you some tips about that. And so I'm going to set this little guy aside and we'll come back to it. We'll go through it. But I also pulled this similar one from my shop that is for sale and has not been used, okay, so that I can do some examples in here. All right, so the first little tip that I have for you about journaling on vacation is that there are no rules. So if you are a person that likes to put in photos, you can do that, especially if you have one of those cool little mini printers to take along. That's awesome. But you can put your pictures in when you get home. You can draw, you can paint, you can write, you can paste things in. There are no rules. You can do it however you like. Okay, so please take mine as an example, but do your own thing. All right. My second tip is to prepare. You want to take some supplies with you so that you have what you need. You certainly don't want to be in a town somewhere and trying to find a Michael's to buy a pair of scissors. You know, that's no fun. So prepare and pack yourself a little journaling bag to take along. Now I'm just going to show you this little bag that I took on my trip, and I know you can't even see the whole thing on the screen there. But this is just a sweet little bag my daughter had given me, and she gave it to me to put knitting things in, and that's what I normally use it for. But I emptied all of that out to take it on this trip because I thought it was a really good size. It just has a drawstring closure at the top, and it just was really easy to carry with me with this nice little handle. Take whatever works for you, okay? Inside that, I had all my supplies, and we're going to get to that. I'll show you what I took. I did have a couple of larger, like, business envelopes, one to keep all of my papers in that I took along with me, and a second one to keep all of the things that I gathered, because I gathered a lot of goodies along the way. And it does help to try to keep those in kind of chronological order if you want your journal to be in chronological order, because it's easy just to go through those things and put them in where they go. All right, tip number 3 is that this is a very flexible journal. You can add, subtract, and reorder pages as you like. Okay, so this book has, let me go to the center. It has an elastic band that is holding all of the pages in. Well, it's somewhere here. There we go. All right, so this is just an elastic band that goes all the way around the book. It can be taken off altogether if you want to work on things. You can take a page out if you don't like it, you don't want it, you can take it out. Or if you want to add pages in, you can slip those in wherever you like. They can go in here, okay? They can go in the front, they can go wherever, okay? So you can make it what you want. If you're working along and you come to a page like this that's really good for writing and you want to save that for writing, you can take that out and put it in a different spot. Okay, now I will show you one other thing. If you have things you want to add in that are too large, I have a couple examples here. I mean, this is just a piece of paper that I got and ripped. It's nothing fancy. But obviously this is too tall. It's not going to fit under the band. Okay, so what I would do with this one is I would just cut some notches. I'm just going to cut a notch here at the top and one at the bottom. And now what you've done is made a little place that you can slip this in and it will fit. So I'm just going to go to the middle to show you that. Sorry I didn't keep the middle when I had it. All right. So we can just, I don't know if I cut it. Yeah, I cut it in a good spot. All right, so it's a little tricky to finagle this in because it's larger, but once you get it in there, it's going to stay in there really well. Okay, all right. So you can just kind of wing that in there like that. And now you have this extra page in there. Okay. Now the other thing you can do to add in larger things is to hinge them. So here's another example. Let's say we have a brochure that's fold out, and it's quite tall. And I don't want to fold it, okay? Or I don't want to cut it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a second thing, and we're going to pretend that this is a postcard. This is just a journal card that I had lying around, okay? We're going to place that on the other side here so that these are going to be a pair, okay? These two are going to be paired up under the band. And what we're going to do is we're just going to add a strip of paper along the edge here, glue those together to a strip of paper, and then they are all one piece, and then you can slip that under your band. Or if they're two that are really large, you could actually glue your little hinge, or put your little hinge in here first, and then glue this to the hinge, and then glue this to the hinge. I hope that makes sense. And then you can get those pages to fit, okay? All right. The other thing I do sometimes with brochures is I just fold them in half, and I tuck them in like they were a page. So I stick them in here like this. And when I come to that in the book, when I'm going through, I can just easily slip it out and look at it and then put it back in. Fourth tip is to gather the freebies, okay? And what I mean by gather the freebies is you all know when you go on vacation and you stay at a hotel, there's always a place that has brochures, flyers. You can pick up really nice, they're like magazines. They're glossy and they have beautiful pictures in them. Tickets, receipts, shopping bags, like paper shopping bags. So basically anything made out of paper is fair game for you to collect and use in your book. You can use it for a page, or you can use it as something to add in, something to journal on, or however it works for you. So like I said before, it helps to have a little envelope or a baggie or something to collect those things in and keep them in order so that when you go to use them, you're pulling them and putting them in the right spot in your book. All right. The next tip I have for you is to cheat the details. And what cheat the details means is I have a little notes app on my phone. And when I'm going through the day, I just type some really brief notes in there. Like, we stayed at the Days Inn in Superior, Wisconsin, or whatever that might be. And dates, and just like the detail things, or just the nuts and bolts of your day, so that you can go back and refer to that later. If you don't have time to do all your journaling, for a day or two or a week or however long, you still have the details that you need to go back and make it accurate. Okay. Along with that, take a lot of pictures. And when you take pictures, make sure you take pictures of signs. So one thing that I did on this trip is every place that we stopped, any sort of park or anything like that, the first thing that I would do was go and take pictures of any signs that they had. That will give you all the details, dates, history about the place, and anything you might want to know later. Plus, when you're going through your camera roll, you get to that and you know that the pictures after that go with that place. So it just helps you to keep things in order. Okay? All right. My next tip is to make your journal interactive. And what I mean by that is it will be fun for you to pull your journal out in a year or 2 or 5 or whatever and have little things to pull out of pockets or flip up or fold out. Those kind of little details just make it more fun to go through your journal. And that is strictly for your own enjoyment. All right. My next tip, and maybe the most important one, is to be happy. And what that means is don't make it into a chore. Do what you like to do. I did some sketching and painting for my journal. If you don't like to do that and it makes you stressed or you just don't care to do it, then don't. If an evening comes and you're just tired and you just want to watch TV and you don't feel like doing any writing, then don't. You don't have to do it all as you go. You can do it later. You can do it when you feel like it. And so the point is, it should be enjoyable and you should be happy. So some days in your journal, you might have a ton of stuff, and some days you might only have a little, and that's okay. All right, so that is my list of tips for you for journaling on vacation. Now, I do want to also just tell you one sort of technical tip for working with a book like this. And I'm a little bit anal, I guess I'll admit it. And so I wanted my journal to be about this specific trip. So I wanted the beginning to be here, and I want the end of the trip to be here. All right. So the first day, I tuck things in here, la 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 la. I'm journaling, la 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 la. The second day, I do some more. The third day, I do some more. Okay, so let's say I'm to this point in the book. Okay, well, I'm like, how far am I from the middle? Okay, you kind of have to make a judgment call here, because here's what happens. Let's say at the beginning of your trip, you're really zealous and you're doing tons of journaling, and you know, the first 2 days you get all the way through here, and then you like get halfway through the second half, and then you realize you're not going to have enough pages here to do all your journaling. Well, you can add pages in like I showed you, but what's going to happen here is if I add a page in, let's say I added in here, then it also adds a page back over here where I already did journaling. And now there's this weird extra page here, okay? So there's a couple ways that you can manage that. One is if you run out of space a little bit at the end, you can add, you can add a pull-out, or you can add a little tuck spot and put something in there, and that works really great. But if you want to plan it out a little bit more, then this is what I did. Our trip was 8 days, and so as I was on the road, I only actually did all the work in my journal through the first 3 days. Okay, the rest of the days I journaled on postcards that I kept in my bag, or I sketched, or I painted little pictures. I did other things that kept me doing my art and having fun, but not actually completing the book. And then later, I went back and I started at the end. And the last day, I put all in here and I worked my way back this way. Okay? So that when you're getting close to the middle, you can add more pages in so that you can then go back to your front half and work this way. So you're kind of working this way until you come to the center. You can add more pages in then, or you can take some out if there's too many. I just didn't want to have like that I got to the end and there were like a bunch of blank pages and I didn't have anything to say. I just didn't want that. So that's just a tip from me to you. If you are like me and you want things to come out that way, then that's how I did it. All right. So without further ado, let's take a look at my book. You can see I took a journal, and in the picture you're seeing the journal before I did anything to it. I took some different gel pens. I chose colors to take that I thought would match the color palette of our trip. We were going around Lake Superior and up into Canada, and I knew that we were going to see the lake most of the time, a lot of trees and nature, and so I chose greens and blues, and then I chose some fall colors because I thought we would probably see some changing leaves. I chose a white gel pen because I like to use that to write on darker papers, and I chose some fine line markers to do some writing with. I have a couple different size black ones there, and then also a brown one. In the second picture you see I took a little mini stapler and I put blue staples in it just for fun. I took several different rolls of washi tape, some bulldog clips, a little ruler, and a pair of scissors. Okay, and then I took a set of small little flower stamps, some mini ink pads. There's green, brown, and blue there, and a mechanical pencil and some leads so I could do some sketching. And then the old book there that you see I took, because usually to press flowers and leaves I use my microfluor, but I wasn't sure if I would have a microwave available, and so I just took this old book to slip things into so they would be flattened and dried out. I took this little tin and I put a few goodies in it, some different paper clips, some paper fasteners, they're actually fabric little flowers, and then a couple of little glass jars because I thought maybe I would gather sand or something like that. I will tell you that somewhere along the way I left this tin in the hotel room, so I didn't have these supplies throughout the whole trip. Now next you're going to see papers, and I really overdid it here, I will tell you. I took a lot of papers. I took some cards to journal on. I took a couple sheets of labels that I printed out. I took a lot of colored paper. I just went through my box of papers and chose out colored paper that I thought would be the right colors. And then I chose a lot of neutral paper. I thought I would use it for collage and for making pages in the book. I didn't use as much of that. I actually wished I had taken more colored papers, but it was okay. I made do with what I had. And then I also took some wax paper, just like I just ripped a piece off and took that, and I'll show you how I used that. And then lastly, I took this set of water-soluble oil pastels. I actually bought these to take on the trip, and I wasn't sure how they would work, but they were really great. I bought them on Amazon. They weren't very expensive. You could use them like a crayon. You could smudge that like you would a pastel. And then I could also use a wet brush to paint on it, and it was almost like a watercolor crayon. So those were really cool. And then I took a little mister. I didn't wind up using that. I took several paintbrushes, and then I also took some glue, my small bottle of art glitter glue, and a glue stick. Now, I put this band on it when I got home, but I just want to show you how fat this is. So you could just put so much stuff in here if you want to. It's up to you. All right. Okay, I added a little something that I cut out from a brochure, Lake Superior Circle Tour. I just put that on the front to help make it be the title of this book. Okay, and my goal here is not to tell you about my trip like in great detail. I'm just trying to show you more, to give you ideas and show you how this little book really works. All right, so when you open this up, the first thing I did is put a map in here of where we were going. Now, we did not go all the way around the lake because we have already spent a lot of time along the southern shore, and we've really been pretty much everywhere along here. So we came up through Michigan to Ironwood, and then went through Ashland and Superior here, and then went all the way around the lake here, came down through the Sioux, and then we continued on down to the Lower Peninsula there to come home. So when I attached this, first of all, I could have used the back of this to write on. I just chose not to. But I didn't glue it down all the way, so it's actually a tuck spot. And then in here, I could create a journal card to kind of just say the dates of the trip and kind of how we planned it and such. Okay. When I open this up, if you remember, there's a little pocket here. And so when I go on vacation, or when my husband and I go on vacation, he buys shirts everywhere and I buy postcards everywhere. So I buy postcards or stickers or greeting cards, whatever they might have, because I use those. This is sort of like a cross between a scrapbook and a journal, I would say. And so I use those as my journal cards and to provide all of my pictures in my journal. So This could have been journaled on the back, but I didn't need it, but I did want to save it. This is, we went across the Badger to start, which is where you go from Ludington across Lake Michigan to Manitowoc. It's a car ferry. It saves a lot of time in driving. And then I just did some journaling here, and then I also tucked some other things in the pocket. And I just show you here that I use postcards to do my journaling on. There's another one. And then this was a something that I got on the boat, and I just liked it because it had like a little map of the boat, and I could remember where we sat and everything like that. So it was kind of a cool thing. You can pick up brochures everywhere when you go on vacation. You know that. You go into a hotel and there's a whole stand of things, and you just pick up what's free. If you go to a park, you know, buy a postcard. If you go to a store, buy a postcard, and you can use that then to keep track of your trip. Here's another postcard in here. Some of them I did some collage on, some of them I didn't do anything at all. Just left them plain. Here's a little watercolor that I did. This I actually probably did a day or two. This was actually a picture of the first day when we left from the boat. But I actually did this later and put it inside. This is watercolor that I used those pastels, and my white gel pen I used on here to add some brighter white. I'm no painter, believe me, but I would like to be, and so I just thought I'm just gonna try and do my best. This book is for me, so I just want to do it. So this was a greeting card that I bought, and I just slipped it in. And then here I've just slipped this brochure that I wanted to save the whole thing. I just slipped it right underneath there to keep it. So it's kind of like a page, but I really didn't write on it or anything. Here I used some little descriptions from brochures and put that butterfly on there I was talking about earlier. And then when you flip this over, this little tuck spot is in each of the journals, and I just tucked some little things under there, and I also just glued this piece of paper underneath there to write some things on. We like to visit breweries, and so those are some things for some breweries we went to. And then I'm a football fan, so the games that we listened to or followed while we were gone, I put a little page in about those. Here I got this sticker at a restaurant we went to, and I wanted to add it in, but I didn't have room on the page, so I just created another tiny little page and stuck that in there. And then when you get to the other side, I used that page for something else. And here I cut out some pictures from brochures. They're glued together right here, and then they're glued down to the page here, so they create a belly band so that you can tuck something in there. And did some writing on this. This was a pass that we had to put in our car, and I used that to journal on. So you can be very creative about what you use. This one I just glued this was from a bag, like a bag where we bought some pasties, and I just glued that on the page. Here I just sketched a little beer glass. And then on this one, take this clip off. This is from another brewery. I just folded it and put it over the top of the page. There, more journaling there, and stickers. Postcards you can usually find everywhere, but I will tell you what you can really find, and that is stickers. Apparently stickers are like the thing. And so if I couldn't find a postcard, I at least got a sticker and put that in. Okay, now here I took this postcard and I glued a hinge onto it, and then attached something else to the other side. So this became a page in itself in the book. Okay. And then here I have this other brochure, and I just put that on with this little piece of paper so that it became this really big pull-out. Some brochures I just cut up and used pieces or pictures. Some of them I wanted to keep the whole thing, and that's how that one was. So, okay. And that just created, that created some different sections here. So I just wrote a little bit about geocaching there. And here's some keepsakes or mementos from a hotel where we stayed in Duluth. Now here I've clipped something on again, and I just kind of like folded it. It was a long brochure, so I folded it in half. I used this part of it as a tuck to tuck this postcard in and do some journaling on. And then the other part over here, this bottom half, I slipped over the page, and that's what I clipped on. And then here I did a little collage. So this is supposed to look like waterfalls. I don't know if it really does or not. It does to me. And that was just really fun. I used little scraps of the paper that I had. And that was fun. So, let me just show you this too while I'm talking. This is a flower that I pressed in that book. And then later I came in and I just put a few dabs of glue on the flower, put it down on the page, and then I glued the wax paper just all the way around the edge on it to kind of protect it. Okay, so this didn't all get done while we were on the road. I finished it up when we got home. Okay, so here's another little sort of a pull out. This was a lighthouse that we went to. And when I glued this one on, I made it again like with a little pocket here. So I saved the wristband and I saved the receipt. Not so exciting this was in Minnesota. But when we got to Canada, I thought it would be fun to save the receipts because just to see how much things cost there. Here is another postcard that is hinged in. And this one, I just created like this little extra bump out here so that I could write here, and then this would fold back and fit neatly inside the book. Okay. And sometimes I just glue pictures in from brochures that I have. Did that there too. This was a sticker that we got. And then lots of journaling. So again, I would journal in the evenings. And do some artwork in the evenings if I felt like it. This is the middle of the book, and this was a large sort of card that I got at a monument, and just thought that would be a neat thing to have in the middle. So this is another brochure. I didn't say that I just tucked in there. It's in there as a page. I used a little flower there. So I had little flowers, or I'd use little stamp the flowers, or just use little bits of paper to cover up empty spots. This was also from a bag that I tore out. Okay. This is another map where I wanted to keep the whole thing. And then here are some more flowers that I pressed, and a leaf. I wanted to remember kind of what we saw. I was surprised. Everything was pretty much like what we have at home, honestly. Not anything different. Another postcard here. And here is just a piece of paper. This was a paper that was in the book. I just added some background paper there and the sticker. Okay, so here we got to some artwork, and this I did with those oil pastels also. This is on a regular piece of paper, okay? What happened here was we went to stop for the night, and we went into this tiny town, and there were 4 bears right in somebody's yard. And so I found this. Apparently the bears are everywhere this year. So we found this brochure somewhere, and I picked that up. And I just wanted to kind of sketch a picture of the little bears like we saw them. The 2 little cubs were climbing up a telephone pole, and then there were actually 2 larger bears at the bottom. I only have 1 here that I drew. So this was made with those oil pastels, and I just kind of smudged them a little bit with a Q-tip. And then I did spray this with a sealer when I got home because I didn't want it to rub off. So this is like the kind of fun thing you do in the evening. You look at your phone at a picture that you have, and then you make the drawing from that. And again, I'm not an artist, but this is for my own memory, and it'll suffice. It will definitely remind me of what we saw. This also was a watercolor, and this one I actually did after we got home. I saved a spot because I knew I wanted to do it, and this was one of the Airbnbs that we stayed at. And this Airbnb was very cool. We stayed at 2 different ones. They were both really cool for different reasons. This one, this little gable that you see here, was a little nook upstairs, and she had it like a little art room. She had a desk, and she had papers, and she had like coloring books for kids, but then she had watercolor paints and brushes and palettes, watercolor paper, all sorts of things, so that if you felt like being artistic, you could just go in there and do it. And so she had Beam watercolors, which I've been really admiring. These are actually from Ontario, and she had these paints there, so I got to use them. I did not own them at the time. Later in our trip, we went to a gift shop and we found these, and my husband bought it for me because I really wanted it. So it's just like this little piece of birch with the watercolors in it, and I just absolutely love it. And so while I was there, I didn't have a lot of time to paint something. What I actually did there with her watercolors was just color this sheet out of a coloring book. But then after I got the paints and got home, then I wanted to use them to paint a little picture of her house because I really just enjoyed our stay there so much. So that's what that is. And again, I am not a painter. I really am not, but it works for me. It works for me. Okay. This just flips up and there's more journaling under there. I've got another postcard clipped here. Lots of journaling in here. I don't journal day to day. I probably should, but I just don't. I feel like I don't have the time, and honestly, I feel like my life is not very exciting. But when we go on a trip, I really like to create one. So here is another, take that clip off. Here is another brochure that I wanted to keep the whole thing, so I made it like a flip out. Okay, and then I just had another postcard clipped in there. We saw the most beautiful waterfalls and scenery. It was really a cool trip. So we enjoyed it. And for me, this is more of a souvenir than a shirt that I probably don't care about wearing. This is what's near and dear to my heart here. Okay. This is a piece of birch bark that I picked up off the ground. Don't worry, I did not peel it off of a tree. I know here in Michigan, I don't think you're even allowed to pick it up off the ground, but I don't know what their rule is up there, and it's just a little piece, so I took it. All right, and then this is a bag that we got. One day we got a picnic lunch at Robin's. It's a donut place, but they had sandwiches too, so we picked up a picnic lunch and went to a park to eat. And this is just receipt from gas that we bought because I thought that would be fun to have. And then this is another little watercolor that I did of the beach. This was called Pebble Beach, and this is where we had our lunch. So I take a million pictures with my phone. Don't get me wrong. I have tons of pictures. But I don't want to come home and then paste them all into a book. If I'm going to look at my pictures, I'll look at them on my phone. So the pictures that I put in here are more my artistic renderings of what we saw. There's another leaf. This was just a cool thing. I won't tell you the story, but there's a statue of Winnie the Pooh. And then this is from Wawa. And they have this giant goose there. Okay, another watercolor here. My inspiration for this was another Airbnb where we stayed, the second Airbnb we stayed at, which was also very cool, but for another reason. And I'm just going to pop a couple pictures in right now of a couple of the views of the inside of that house. So there was color and shine and light and just things to look at everywhere. It was like a riot of everything. And I know some people wouldn't like that, but I found it so much fun and just so inspiring and cool. So this lady had little paintings on the wall covering all the walls everywhere. And this was just a little oil painting that she had that, you know, somebody's grandma did probably. And I just thought it was pretty. So I just recreated it with watercolors. And again, this I did after I got those cool paints. I really wanted to do it with the cool paints. So this collage here is to represent what the inside of that house looked like. It's just like, just color and pattern and things everywhere. And even though none of these are actual things from the house, it still reminds me of what it looks like. All right, and then here I had taken a few pages from a tree book because I knew we were going to see a lot of conifers, and so I just grabbed a few to use in my book. And here I just tore these and used them as corner tucks for these postcards here. This is just a little, this is the other half of that little page I put in, I showed you at the beginning. And here I just took some papers and put them on here and said today's color palette. These were the colors we were seeing in the scenery that we were driving through. And then here's another, just the same thing, another card. Here is another one. Again, the same thing. And then here is a really bad sketch of the signs that we were seeing, night danger for moose. Apparently there were moose everywhere. We never did see one, but we saw the signs. And I mean, like, it's not even square, but I don't care. It's for me. So, you know, just let yourself go and have fun. And don't feel like you have to go back and fix everything. Just have it be the way it is and enjoy it the way it is. Because you're on vacation and it's fun. So this just pulls open and we have another little map here. On this one, I just circled the places where we stopped. And then here, this little pocket page was already in there. I just added the moose. Since we didn't see a moose, I cut that out of a brochure and added it in, and then just have that as a little tuck spot. And this is just another receipt from a park pass that we had. But this is the wrapper that was around those paints, and it tells the names of all the colors. So I really wanted to keep that. I might actually have to keep that somewhere else eventually, but it's in there for now. All right, and then just a little bit more journaling here. The other side of that big brochure I showed you right at the beginning. And then here is the other side of the card that I put in. And then here I just added a little bit, you know, we just had to have a little bit of extra journaling spot here and here. And you open it up. A couple stickers here that I put on. A couple of another brochure and a couple of things from breweries that we visited toward the end of our trip. And then just a couple more cards here. All right, so I hope that gives you some ideas, and I hope that you enjoyed this. I have a lot of these little books in my shop, so if you're interested, if you look below, I'm going to put a coupon code there for a little bit of a discount. So thank you so much for joining me, and take care of yourself, and I will see you soon. Bye.